Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday as Bill sees it meeting. This is a main chair meeting, and today it is with great pleasure and with much gratitude that we welcome Ronald W. from Los Angeles, who's come to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open the meeting for general sharing, or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you, Ronald. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Andy. Hello, everybody. My name is Ronald White. I'm an alcoholic. Um, I want to thank Young for inviting me to come share with you guys this morning. It is 5 a.m. my time, so I am spry and chipper. I have a regular Sunday morning meeting I go to, but it's at 6:30, so I still would have got to sleep in an additional hour. So I'm just up a little bit earlier. That's all. I have a meditative practice I do, so I have to get up a little bit earlier and do that. But I'm good. Um, I have a sobriety date. It's July the 14th of 1986. I have a sponsor. His name is Jerome Scott. He has 52 years of sobriety. I have a home group. It's called the Never Too Early Big Book Workshop. We meet every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We've been meeting continuously since November of 1987, a meeting we started in my mother's home. Uh, in November of 87, we had 13 of us gathered around her dining room table. This morning, I'm sure we'll have somewhere around 450 to 500 intimate friends that gather together to take a walk through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous together. Um, I uh, I don't know why I chose that reading. When Young asked me to pick a reading, but it just sounded good, right? I don't know how I'm gonna share on it, but it's because I mean, it's got some great stuff in there. Well, the first part of the reading comes from step 10 in the 12 and 12. Um, the second part comes from something from the grapevine, and then the third one comes from step 5. Uh, and that's the one that really caught my eye. That last one, when it was talking about, hold on a second, uh, that somehow being alone with God doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing up to another person. That until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden, our willingness to clean house is largely theoretical. That when we are honest with another person, it confirms that we have been honest with ourselves and with God. Um, over the course of the 39 years that I've been sober, I've probably done at least 35 fifth steps. Um, I have listened to countless fifth steps from people that I sponsor and even people that I don't sponsor who've asked me to listen to fifth steps. And I know there is something that occurs in that exchange uh, that when you put pen to paper, that's one aspect of this self-searching, this look for honesty that we're doing, this digging. But until I sit down with y'all, man, with at least one person and really talk aloud, and I hear exactly what I've written, and nothing like it. There's really nothing like that process. Let me give you a little bit of my bona fides. Uh, uh, I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I have five brothers, six boys. There's uh, four of us are sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have I was raised by primarily by my mother. My father was dispatched from the home when I was about 8 years old. When I say that, it means he was kicked out by my mama because he liked to drink a little bit too much. He liked to drink that Ripple. Some of you guys may not be old enough to remember Ripple. Perhaps it was a nice, fine little beverage, wine that never saw a grape. I don't know where it came from. It was twist top, no cork, just a twist top, right? My daddy loved him some Ripple, right? And it made him irresponsible, and and it's funny. In looking back, this honesty piece is really a trip because we tell ourselves stories. Let me personalize that. I tell myself stories, oftentimes from my childhood, from other things, And sometimes I think they are myths that I create in on my own head, that there are things that I have not quite been that honest about. That's why I love the inventory process, this excavation process that we undertake in Alcoholics Anonymous to remove the things in me that are blocking me from the power, from a relationship with the power I agreed to allow to manage my life in step 3. So when I did this excavating about my father, when I'm talking about this childhood, I remember in my first inventory, I talked about how he was abusive, how he was he left us. He did all. My daddy didn't leave us. My daddy wanted to stay. My daddy was put out. But I lied to myself for years and blamed him as if he wanted to not be with us. Um, when I said he was abusive, I really had in my mind that he was physically abusive. My daddy was neglectful. He was not ever physically abusive. My mother did all of the disciplining in our house. However, I wanted to make this man who I thought was the source of much of my unhappiness early in life. I wanted to make him into this monster. So I lied to myself about who and what he was. Uh, and even later, in later years after sobriety, my brothers and I would take my dad out to the ball game, out to see the Dodgers here in Los Angeles. We love baseball. And we would take him out. He would come to visit from his second family that he had acquired when he moved from LA to Kansas. And he would come out and we take him and he'd have a beer at the ball game, and I would look and I was wondering, wait a minute, is this the same guy? Now, maybe he was trying to restrain himself for us. I don't know. I know if it were me, I would have been, you know, but I think he may have been just that heavy drinker, that certain type of hard drinker we talk about in the book. That's described as the person who, given a significant reason, they can stop or become a moderate drinker. Because I'm not quite sure that he was really an alcoholic. See, over the years, I've lied to myself a lot about a lot of things. Honesty is so important in this process of recovery. There is a very important part of the book. It was an appended part of the book, Appendix 2. It's called The Spiritual Experience. That was put at the back of our book, Alcoholics Anonymous, because so many people misunderstood in the early days. So many people thought that if they didn't get it like Bill Wilson with the wind rushing through him and the light shining on him, and then this sudden change in attitude, this non-believer all of a sudden just quickly becomes a believer in something. That are like our Southern friend, the story about our Southern friend, and he is, who are you to say there's no God? I should speak more quietly. The rest of the household is sleeping. Y'all hear the voice of God. My wife come in here if I talk too loud. But I understand that in that appendix, but it explains the spiritual experience. At the very end, it talks about what's required for me to be able to receive a spiritual experience. And it says that the essentials are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And how it works, it talks about the person who cannot or will not get the program is the person who cannot give themselves to this simple program. Usually people who are incapable of being completely honest with themselves. It seems like this honesty piece is a piece that I can't get away from in Alcoholics Anonymous, that I can't get away from if I want to be able to stay sober. I sometimes remember I ask myself why that is, but then I go back over my life. I told you my mother raised me and my brothers. We were raised in South Central Los Angeles, Watts. It was a very impoverished part of Los Angeles. My mother was on welfare when she put my daddy out, but she didn't. She was a proud woman, so she didn't want to stay on welfare. So she became a domestic, kind of like a maid for other people's families, a nanny, to cooking and cleaning and taking care of other people's kids and stuff, so she could feed her boys. And my mother did all kinds of things. Now, mind you, while I knew my mother was making sacrifices and doing all these kinds of things, it was somewhat an embarrassment to me what she did for a living. Uh, I she didn't do the kind, she wasn't the kind of housewife that I saw on television. I'm a television kid because I like escaping. Even before I started drinking, I used all kinds of different substances to help me change the way that I felt internally. Books, TV, movies, all of those kinds of things. And so I had uh, I created this view of what I thought life should be like for me. I lied to myself. I've always told myself I was too short. Now, I don't know what too short is. All I know is that's me. I don't know what the right height is. I think Andy might be the right height. I've never seen Andy in person physically, but he just looks like he's the right height, right? And but that's not me. I'm 5'4.5", and I'm not. That's right, a half. I'm gonna get all behind it, and I'm 71 years old, still talking about I'm 5'4.5". The, I don't know where that came from. I've lied to myself about so many things. I've always said I was too dark. I've always said I was too and I thought I was ugly. Now that's the biggest lie. How could a handsome guy like me ever think he? Anyway, let me. I'm going to exercise a little humility here this morning. Um, Step 3 says that I need to be freed from the bondage, not of alcohol, but the bondage of self. Because it seems like self is the thing that lies to me. It seems like these different things within me uh, constantly tell me untruths. I am delusional. They say self-delusion is one of the areas of self, lying to myself and believing it. It says self-pity, feeling sorry for myself. Oh, poor me. I had a wonderful childhood. My mom loved us. I had my best friends all around me, my brothers. I had a wonderful uh, school life in that I had friends. I played an instrument, trombone, and I was part of a music program that was very prestigious. And we marched in the Rose Parade, and we raised funds. We flew to Hawaii. These little kids from the hood, right? We flew off to Hawaii for the Aloha Parade. Some of us formed an ensemble, a jazz ensemble. We went to the Hollywood Bowl and won sweepstakes. It's the top high school jazz band in the nation. We did many things. We accomplished many things. I had many accomplishments. I had many things. But guess what? If you would listen to me, you would be poor me, right? Because I don't have cheerleaders, right? I don't have pom poms. I don't have acclaim. I don't have. That's ego. See, self will lie to me and will mess up a beautiful situation. I've always been blessed, but you wouldn't have thought about it because for me, my selfishness and self-centeredness makes me always look at the glass as half empty, never half full. Live a life of ingratitude. That makes for drinking. And so I was never grateful because of this inability to get honest with myself, to be satisfied with the gifts that God has given me. Because I'm too busy looking at yours, John. Or I'm too busy looking at yours, Louise. Or all of you beautiful ladies that I'm looking at on these screens. I'm thinking, why wouldn't you talk to me? Now, mind you, I never talked to you, but I'm wondering, why didn't you talk to me? Because you see, my fear of rejection always precluded me even taking a chance. I, I'm a I am a big supporter of my high school reunions. I'm on my reunion committees ever since after I got sober, and I was about maybe 5 years sober, and I started participating in all my old high school. Every 5 years we have a reunion. And I would go back to the reunions and I would see these girls that I used to, pine over, that I used to really long to. And I would say, oh man, I wish I had talked to, and invariably they would say, uh, why didn't you talk to me? that it would seem that I would always, let's see, hold on a second. They say they're getting a little whistle in my headphones. Hold on a second. Okay, is it still there?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's still there, Ron. Yeah.
all right.
Let me unplug it and see whether or not that. So I know.
Much better. Yeah.
Now you're the one that's going to do it to me. That's why I wear headphones. But that's all right. While I'm talking, I'll keep them out. But when I'm listening, I'll put them back in. All right. So, and you know I'm old. I have to try to pick up where I was at. Let's see. I'm talking about lying, talking about being deceptive, talking about not talking to girls when I was in school. Okay, I think I've caught up. And so I have lived a life that is so unfulfilled, seemingly unfulfilled, because I lied to myself, because I am dogged by all of these different areas of self. And the reading that precedes the reading, the prayer, the third step prayer, some of the best writing in the book. I always say that about any section of the book. I love we agnostics. I love all these different areas, but that little section, where it talks about selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms and then it talks about these different forms of self that I am driven by. And it talks really about the fact that people harm me seemingly without provocation, but invariably I find that I have made a decision based on self that has later placed me in a position to be hurt. The biggest lie that I tell myself, I didn't do nothing. Why did you why this happened to me, right? Because I can't be honest with myself about the part that I have played in different things. That's why we do inventory, because I invariably hang out with the wrong people. Kind of funny how since I've gotten sober and I haven't hung out with the wrong people, I haven't really gotten to that much trouble because I haven't placed myself in the position to be hurt. Right now, I lost my law license 10 years ago, 2014. I ended up getting they suspended me, and then I got disbarred in 2015. And initially, I was very angry about it, very sick, because I had a con man for a client, and this con, you know what a con man is. I don't need to explain that to alcoholics. A confidence man is somebody who gains your confidence and then takes you, right? Well, this con man, conned a bunch of investors into investing in a thing that he was doing, and then he ran off with one of their $1 million of somebody's money, right? And the fact of the matter is, I was thinking, well, why is the state bar coming after me? Because I didn't do anything. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't do whatever. But guess what? Invariably, when I look at a decision I made based on self that later placed me in a position to be hurt, I knew I had that spidey tingle. If y'all don't know what that is, Spider-Man, one of these comic book characters, can kind of feel intuitively. He can kind of feel when there's a problem. We have that within all of us. We have this instinctive thing, and see, I buried it over the years, but being sober, I can feel it. And I felt a little spidey tingle when I was first being hired by this guy. He seemed kind of slick. He seemed kind of whatever, but guess what? I made a decision based on self. I was going to be well paid to work for this guy. And so, I ignored the tingle and I worked for him, and it appeared everything was okay. And I did not watch him like I was supposed to. I trusted him, which I should not have. See, I lied to myself. It's okay. All these people are giving him money. He must be legitimate. Why would they? And then I don't do what I'm supposed to do. And then I end up being disbarred. And I had friends telling me, let's go find him. Let's go, do whatever. Thank God for inventory, because I was able clearly to see the part that I played in it. I was able to get honest with myself and know that he did what he did. I cannot expect him to be anybody other than who he is. And that's, and he did what a con man does. I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to, which is I'm supposed to, listen to the voice within. I'm supposed to listen to that voice that I have established, I've tapped into since I've been here. I know I'm jumping all over the place, y'all. I'm trying to make sure I stick with the topic, but I also want to just tell you some things about myself. I get out of high school and I go to college. College is when I first started to drink. The summer before I started college is when I started to drink because I got the voices within me about the things I don't have got so loud, I forgot the voice that told me you don't want to be like your daddy. I forgot that voice. I forgot what alcohol, I had a close-up view of what alcohol can do, and I had no interest in alcohol as I came through school. It looked like my daddy, and I didn't want to do that. But guess what? You girls look more attractive to me than not looking like my daddy. So I lie to myself and I say, I'm not like him. I can handle this thing. And so I start to drink. And like most alcoholics, drinking starts off fun, right? It starts off freedom. It starts off, I heard somebody ask somebody about the promises before. The promises we hear read, they're promises that are adjacent to every step that we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's different promises that we receive. The ones we read in the meetings are the ones that accompany the amends process, the 9th step process, promises. Well, I felt those promises when I started to drink. I felt a new freedom and a new happiness. I didn't regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it when I started to drink. None of those things seemed to matter to me because the sensation that I received from drinking precluded all of those fears that I had. It's one of the biggest deceptors. It's one of the biggest lies that I take because I was still the same person. I was the still person that I was prior to taking the drink, but the drink made me feel like I was somebody different. So around the 3rd year, now the worm starts to turn and I start becoming a different person. My character starts to change because I can't keep up with life the way I'm supposed to because my drinking it becomes excessive. But I lie to myself about that. I work in treatment now. Since I stopped practicing law, I have the opportunity to work in treatment in a couple of detox facilities and then with some other folks and a couple of sober livings. And when talking about this program, it is amazing how deceptive, how deeply ingrained dishonesty is in us. That even when evidence is there to the contrary, I started drinking in 1972. I started to change in 1974. I didn't get sober till 1986. I had, in the book, our book, I used to hate people that kept referring to the book. Maybe it's because I hadn't read the book that much, but there's a part in the big book, and there is a solution where it says, why does he behave like this? If hundreds of experiences have shown him that one drink means another debacle, with not just a debacle, y'all, but with all the suffering and humiliation that comes with it, why does he take that one drink? And as I examined the evidence of my life, and when I looked at, I didn't have hundreds of situations, y'all. I had thousands of experiences over the course of the next 14 years. Thousands of experiences that showed me that you don't need to be drinking or using. But guess what? I never blamed it on drinking and using. I blamed it on life. I blamed it on you. I understand why it's so important. This honesty piece is so important for me to get sober. Because if I can't get honest with myself about who and what I am, I won't get sober. I can't stay sober. Because I will one day, the thought will come, you can have just one. Is there anybody on this platform that's satisfied with just one? Who wants just one anyway, right? But my head tells me that lie, you can have just one. And then I believe it. It's the self-delusion. That's why it's so important for me to get honest with myself, because I know what I am. I used to sit in, and I know this is Alcoholics Anonymous, and I respect the traditions, but I also share honestly. I know I'm an alcoholic through and through, but I also use other substances. And at the end, I'm hanging out in dope houses, sitting on seedy couches, and where there's no electricity, we are very creative, where somebody has finagled a little cord or whatever that they've tied up to the electrical wire outside, or that they've jimmied something, and we sitting there and there's nothing in the refrigerator except maybe some jug of water or something. And I'm sitting around with a bunch of people who are just like me, and I'm looking at them thinking, if I ever get as bad as that, I'm sitting on the same couch. I'm sitting doing the same thing as them, looking at them talking about, if I ever get as bad as them. Am I the only one? Am I the only one that lies to myself and says I am different, right? That I am not like these people. That went on for years, y'all. So much to the point that by the time 1986 rolls around, I have been living back at my mother's house for 2 years. Now, I was a lawyer when I was doing that. I don't know why. And prior to that, I've been doing a whole lot of couch surfing. Now, I used to say that I moved in with my brother Reggie and his roommate David. I was sleeping on the couch in there. And funny, if you're sleeping on somebody's couch, that's not that's not a room. That's not you're not living there. I don't know why and I'm a lawyer while I'm doing all this, right? And honesty, that why it is so difficult for me to really get and stay honest. One of the parts of the reading says that I end up hiding a bad motive underneath a good one. That I end up seemingly, I can lie to myself and tell myself it's for the right reason. That I can tell myself when I'm self-righteous, when I act like I'm better than other people, when I've done the same exact things as them, that this will kill me as an alcoholic if I am unable to get completely honest with myself. That's why we have the 5th and the 10th steps, where these readings come from. Because I need to continue to tell you about my thinking, about the way that I'm behaving. Now, some people think that it's well enough to commune with God, to have and prayer and meditation is great. I will pray and I will meditate. I told you I have a practice every morning that I do. But even in prayer and meditation, it says consultation with spiritual people is advised also, because I can be misguided and I can start to think that voice inside is God's. But funny, it sounds like my voice. that voice suspiciously sounds like me, right? Now, I know that I don't make people my God. That there's no human power that I call my higher power. Because I know you guys can be fallible, but guess what? I hear the voice of God through you. I do a whole lot of sponsorship. I talk to a lot of people every day that I've been privileged enough to ask me to help them, to help guide them. And it's amazing some of the things that I hear, not just from them, but from me. That there is something within me that when I want to help somebody else, how can I describe it? That I become better when I'm thinking about you than when I'm thinking about myself. That I become more honest. That I dig deeper. that I become more transparent, that I become more vulnerable, that I become more, because when I share with the experiences with, I try not to tell people what to do. You know, when I'm sponsoring them, I share experiences with them. I try to share experiences where, and if I don't have the experience, I try to direct them to a place where they can find someone who can share that experience with them. I don't try to be a counselor and a psychiatrist and there was one. I'm about to shut up, Ronald. I was about to tell one of my sponsors was so some shit that I don't know nothing about, right? He was asking me some stuff, and I'm a good listener. Sometimes I think maybe that's what I'm just supposed to be, just a listener, and not try to contribute something in an area in which I don't have knowledge. And so I listened, and I guess it must work, because after the conversation was over, he felt better. he seemed to have the direction that he needed to have. So sometimes being honest with myself about not knowing is extremely important. This honesty thing permeates everything, every area of what I do and who I am. So I get sober in July of 1986. And I start to rebuild this life. I stay away from my mother's home. I relapse. First started treatment in 1985. Now, I told you I first started treatment. I didn't start coming to Alcoholics Anonymous in 1985. So I don't mix up treatment with Alcoholics Anonymous. Treatment is treatment. Gives you a safe place to go, a sheltered place away from, all the stuff that I might have been involved in, except I understand that that's not a program of recovery. Right? And so I relapsed just when I was going to treatment, because when I got there, they elected me, since I was a lawyer at the time, they elected me the president of the AA that they had in the house. They didn't have no outside meetings. It was the inmates running the asylum. I don't even think we had big books, looking back on it. I don't know what we were doing. We were just kind of meeting and talking, right? They also let me be the treasurer, which I took that money and relapsed. I stole the AA money. And I had great amends with that later after I got sober, going back there and making amends for that. But there was nothing about recovery in that first. And I kept coming home and I kept relapsing. And I kept coming home and when I got sober, I was honest enough with myself to say, I can't go home anymore. I can't go. I stayed away from my mother, the person I love more than anything. I stayed away from her home for a year before I came back. I was in a recovery home for 4 months. I went to sober living for 6 months. I stayed on a woman's couch sober this time. She heard about I had to leave the sober living because they wanted to make room for somebody from the recovery home to get a bed. And they said, you've exceeded your time. It's why you hiding out here, right? And I had to leave. And this lady, H&I, bringing a panel of H&I into the sober living, she heard me share. And she don't know me from nowhere but that meeting in the sober living. And she said I could come sleep on her couch until I felt comfortable enough to move back to my mother's. And she let me stay. Yvonne was her name. Yvonne let me stay on her couch with her and her roommate, Jenny, for 2 months until I established my home group. And I felt comfortable enough to move home. Now, the first thing I heard when she invited me over to the house, the first thing that came to my mind, she wants you, right? You know how attractive we are at 10 months, right? I was thinking that, I just did. Thank God she didn't want me. She wanted me to stay sober. And thank God that I had been coming to meetings long enough that I did not disrespect that kindness that she showed me. And I respected her home, and I'm sober this day because of her kindness, because of her generosity. That's what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I get sober. I'm starting to make amends. Okay. I'm making amends. I make amends to my mom. I make amends to the dope dealer that beat me in my mother's front yard that led to my being sober, I go back to him and I make amends. His name was Kenny. And I approached him, and really when I thought about it, it wasn't even that much money. I stole from maybe about $60. That's the best $60 I stole and the best ass whooping I ever took, right? Because it led to me coming to Alcoholics Anonymous the next day. I went up to Kenny and I said, "Hey man, I need to, I'm sober now and I'd like to make amends for some money I stole." He says, "What?" He didn't even remember. He didn't even remember the whooping he gave me that led to me being sober. But he took the money, of course. And then he just said, okay, he said, "Good luck." I have had the opportunity to grow in Alcoholics Anonymous enough that 3 weeks ago I was in a hospital. No, 2 weeks ago. November 22nd, however long ago that was. My mother died. My mother passed away. And I was able to be present during the course of that time. She had not had any prolonged or protracted illness. She had been in the hospital a week before for some obstructive bowel or something. And so she went there and they drained the obstruction or whatever. And so she came home. She was in the hospital for 4 days then. She came home. She was all right for a day. But then the very next day, she couldn't eat or wouldn't eat or do anything and started having some breathing problems. We took her to the hospital and they told us it looked like she had pneumonia in one of her lungs and they were going to intubate, put a breathing tube, but we could come visit her the next morning. We all went home that night, or Friday night, and got a call about half an hour after we had left the hospital telling us we better get back to the hospital. And my mother went to arrest and she passed. And they got this room. They put this room to the side for all of us because it was a bunch of us in the waiting room. And they said, "Let us clean her up. Let's put her in a room." And they put her body in a room, and we all went there and we prayed. And we each got the opportunity to kiss my mother goodbye and say a prayer and do it. And it was one of the most spiritual experiences I've had since I've been sober. And while there's sadness, there's more gratitude now because I can be honest with myself about any regret that I might feel or any pain I might feel is merely selfish on my part because I would want to still see my mother and kiss her and hold her or do whatever. But my mother was 95 years old. My mother she lived a full and a great life and she did not suffer a lot in her later years. She had all of her faculties. She was still sharp and that was perfect, right? And so I need to know and be honest with myself that everything's okay. And I've been okay through this process, but as we get closer to the funeral, which is Wednesday, and I talk to more people who are who love my mother and stuff, I feel it more, like I'm feeling it now. And I know that I need to just continue to be honest with myself because I have this way of burying things that might be painful. And so I need to just remember that, right? And stay really in touch with you guys and my family is we've always been close, but we've rallied together even closer and sharing memories and the like. And so, I hope I touched on honesty enough this morning. I know my time is up. I'm in my last minute. And so I'm going to perform a miracle this morning. I'm actually going to stop before the time is up, which is really miraculous for me. Young, thank you. Andy, thank you. I appreciate all of you. And I love you all. My name is Ronald White. I'm an alcoholic.